Okay, a quick question. So, who wants to volunteer to come forward and start the conversation?
I can.
Yeah, you can? Yeah.
I might be.
Yes, yeah, available, yeah.
You go first.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello everyone.
Yeah.
Hello, Stacy again.
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, okay, so
this one. Okay.
let's swap. You sit. You sit here.
Here. Okay. Okay.
Okay, we have a very difficult arrangements. But
So, okay, Anastasia, thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting.
but it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. So, as understood, you have a pretty long time working as a data scientist. So, might you tell something about what is a real experience for you as a worker? Because there is of course a set of skills and some tricks might be which you use. So what gives you exact experience after working lots of years in this area?
I'm not sure I
If I got it
understood
wrong.
the direction of the question, but I'll share what I can share. Data science is about both numbers and people, and people are about 60% of the success of any of your projects as a data scientist, at least 60. Because yes, good data is important. You cannot do anything without good data. Yes, it is very important to do proper calculations, but after all, calculations take a very fixed amount of time. But understanding what actually people want, which decision they are trying to make, or which decision they have already made, and then they are trying just to fill in the space between the question and decision and the answer. It is what takes a lot of effort, and it is what is the hardest nurturing skill.
So it looks like it's more about communication between the team members and combining their experience.
Yeah, wouldn't say about combining, no, well, kinda. Combining the experience is still there, but yes, a lot of communications, mostly with people who are asking questions or with people who say like, hey, I want this magnificent machine learning feature in my product.
Or you have done something with this in the past, or which might be a good idea in your project.
Yeah, actually, the type of questions that people ask is not really important. Like right now, in the whole idea of what's your experience, it is experience of working with people a lot. I had this illusion when I was studying statistics that, well, I will be sitting there in my corner, just output some numbers that will make people say wow. The truth is, to make people say wow, you need to spend just as much time with people as you spend with numbers, or sometimes more.
Stacy, so if I understand you correctly, so even data scientist has to talk to people.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unbelievable. How is it possible?
I quit.
That was one of my first thoughts when I understood that. Yeah, but I didn't quit, but it was a hard decision.
Right, and we right now have ChatGPT and Google and Gemini and whatever it is. So can't you just type in, I want to use nice feature with machine learning. How do I do it? So won't this thing give you the answer?
They will give you the answer, and most likely it will be quite reasonable.
Okay.
Then you'll need to follow this answer.
Okay.
And then there will be challenges for which large language models won't help you, because there are details, and the details are the very thing that stops you from achieving your goals.
This is a big disappointment, because many people in the field think that you type something into ChatGPT and it will tell you, press this button, and I will press this button and say all the work is done. And suddenly you talk about challenges. Suddenly you talk about that you have to talk to people. Well, why are we doing it then?
Yeah, to begin with, I kind of intentionally used task headings in my presentation.
Yeah.
Because that's good examples of what user come to you, what your stakeholders come to you with. They say they come to you with, hey, I need to analyze retention for those people who were participating in the A/B test that we conducted 2 months ago, and you're like, nice. Why do you need that? And the real work begins actually after the question, why do you need that? And in, I think, half of the cases, the result of this conversation is, I don't care actually about this particular retention, I care about something entirely different. And maybe I just need to run a survey among all my users to find out how do they feel about this particular feature that we are promising. But the point is, most likely people around you, people who are trying to make decisions with data, they don't know what actually do they need from data. And that's your job as a data specialist, to consult them, to help them understand what they actually need, and to operationalize their actual question, not the one that they came to you with, but the actual one.
Okay.
There is a question. We might change probably. Let's change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Alex, if you want, you could stay. Yeah. Alex, if you want, you could stay.
I'm enjoying it later.
We have 2 people joining now.
Yeah.
So now something that came to my mind is that you said that people don't know what they want to use with the data, but then I also feel that a lot of people gather data, but then they don't know what they're gathering. So, like, how many times do you actually, or how do you distinguish between good data and bad data?
How do I distinguish between good data and bad data? Do we have 3 more hours?
I don't know.
I don't have those.
Yeah.
Well, if we are trying to stay kind of abstract, I'd say that the good data is the data that helps you make decisions. Because, like, what do you need it for? If not decisions, if you are not making decisions, then probably you are doing something weird. Maybe you're just trying to spend some time with nice people. Don't judge, but honestly, you don't need data for that. If your data doesn't help you make decisions that you want to make, then it's bad. How exactly to define why exactly is bad is to talk to your data scientist, or maybe to external data scientists. They will try to operationalize the question that they hear from you. Then they derive the list of data requirements from this question, just as we saw in the presentation. And then you just compare this list of requirements to your data, and if your data doesn't satisfy these requirements, then it's bad. Sometimes it's easy to fix. You just need to, I don't know, add some more data collectors, log when users click this or that button, and that's easy. Sometimes you need to fix everything, like in JetBrains, we threw out all the data that we collected, I think at least 2 times.
You threw all the data?
All the data, yeah.
2 times?
2 times.
And nobody got fired?
Nobody got fired.
Okay.
Actually, people got promoted.
Right. we should explain this, that if you throw the data,
Yes.
you get promoted.
I want to go.
JetBrains endorsed. All right. Okay.
Can I ask a supplementary question on the good?
Yeah.
On the good and bad data.
Yeah.
So just continue on the good and bad data.
Yeah.
So first, good and bad, I think you come to ethics. What is good, what is bad?
No, I tried to never bother with ethics.
And so data science ethics is an important aspect of, and even more and more going forward. So you were talking about, you talked about a few things. So what is your standpoint on your ethics working with data science to start with?
Yeah, I think I'll make a short story about it. My data ethics moment was when I was offered to build the data-based HR scoring system. I refused. The idea decision was the following: which kind of decisions will people make with this data and with this system? First, do I want people to make decisions based on this data? And second, what is the price of the mistake? Like, I'm not ideal, and everybody is not ideal, and ChatGPT is one of the worst data scientists that I've seen. Okay, maybe a little bit better than a junior student, but at the same level. We all make mistakes, and we will make mistakes. What is the price of those mistakes? If the price of this mistake is somebody's getting fired, it's actually not the price that I'm willing to pay. Somebody else can, and there are people who are doing HR analytics systems and they are doing just fine, but they agreed to this price of their mistakes. I didn't. That's kind of what, and I heard, at least when I talk to my university mates, they usually take the same approach about the price of their mistakes and do they want to be a part of it. So.
And do you then think about the collection of the data? So, so there are two aspects. So there's like, sometimes you collect a sort of data that allows you, so you will not do this, but you have perhaps contributed to collection of that data that would allow you to do this. So what do you think already at the collection of set requirements?
Well.
And how that data is collected as well. Because, for example, in your examples, you did A/B testing, and the telecom example, the churn, for example. How is the people whose data are being served this? Do you take that into consideration when you're sitting with that data, when you have it? Do you care about how that data was gathered, collected?
Yeah, love this kind of questions because as a person.
As a data scientist?
No, first as a person. Since I guess 3 years old, I was always wondering, is it possible to look at the world from somebody else's eyes? So it is very native for me to wonder what other people are doing, how do they make decisions, how do they see the world. Therefore, for me as a person, it is very natural to want to collect as much data as possible. But yes, then I understand that I'm not the individual person, but I live in the world and there are other people and they also make mistakes and they are also using the good intentions for bad purposes. So general rule of thumb is, well, if analytics can be anonymous, it should be anonymous. If it cannot be anonymous, think twice before collecting it and anonymize it as soon as possible. Then I usually stop because the point is, if somebody is really willing to use the data for bad purposes, they will do it anyway. I need to stop myself at some point, so just not to burn out.
Yeah, because I think there's the aspect of, you mentioned GDPR, which I work with. The reason I'm a lawyer, so that's why I'm asking this question. I work with a lot of tech companies. So there's the aspect of collecting personal data, and that's the GDPR handles that. But with the AI Act, it doesn't have to be personal data. So it could just be anonymous data as you're referring to it, but it could still have the consequences on the society as
of course, the very common example is the internal bias of those models. So if we are collecting the data of some specific group of people, then it acts as if it was the only group of people that exist. That is not always the desirable behavior.
But even if it's not built on direct personal data, even if it's built on
anonymous data, but it just happened that we are training on users' data from British National Healthcare System. That's nice, that's good, and it would serve the British National Healthcare System amazingly. But if you would try to apply this resulting model to, for example, people in America, in USA, it would already be much worse, and it's really hard to control that. Then, the only solution that I know is to be aware of possible problems and to constantly monitor whether these problems have arisen here right now. There is a whole institute, meaning like the school of thought of monitoring metrics, control metrics, and all the other stuff about letting people know that machine has done something weird.
Yeah.
And yes, if you have resources to do it, please do it.
Yeah.
Stacy, I catch myself thinking that if I, as a stupid developer, would try to use these amazing machine models, which marketed to me that they solve all my
Have
problems.
you seen the AI assistant?
Just let me finish this thought. So suddenly, next to being able to program it, I have to become aware about GDPR. I have to be aware about the consequences of AI Act. I have to be aware about the biases of this algorithm. Isn't this becoming too much for one poor little developer?
Of course, it's becoming too much.
Okay.
Tools around. I am a strong believer. I'm a strong believer in proper tooling. And yes, another half of my strong belief is that grown-up people are responsible for themselves. So yes, tools will help you. Most likely, the AI Act is, if I'm not mistaken, the problem is about the code that resulted from, for example, LLM generation might not be perfectly legal. Am I right?
So it's not adopted yet, the AI Act. It will be adopted, so we'll end up saying what it is. But it's more on the use cases. So it's really, you could have an AI that you're using for a purpose of, should I play ping pong or not? Or should I give this person a vaccine or not? So it really is on the purpose of where you use it. So that's an important aspect of the use case is really focused, and of the potential impact as well. So those are and I think it's also important you talk about it. You talk about the AI Act, you talk about the GDPR, and there are sector-specific areas. If you're working in health, as you know, there are ethic committees and all the things around it in other regulatory areas. And you're talking about the data and data scientists, and that's why my question came. What you're trying to achieve is not in a void. It's not in a. It's not the Wild West. At least
it is. Now it still is. But
it's not, because the GDPR applies, right? So the GDPR applies. It's just that
it's one of the first limitations.
Well,
and it's existed, and the directive, which was the GDPR before, has existed since 1995. Now there's an aspect of do we know about this? So can we expect one person to know about all these things?
Do you want a feedback from the field?
Yes.
All right.
Well, I mean,
It was 2022, and I was in capacity of solution architect in one very reputable financial institution. I will not name which one because it will become
Public.
Okay.
Just go to LinkedIn.
Just protect the innocent. We were discussing about how to build a system which gathers sensitive data from high-value prospects. And Tim proposed to me a design. I looked at it. I said, "Do you know anything about GDPR?" I said, "No. What is it?" "Okay.
Nice.
How long have you been with the bank?" And they said, "Well, about the last 5 years." And I said, "Okay, so you have been working in this financial institution, and you have never heard about GDPR?" I said, "No. What is it?"
Okay, so not everybody knows about it. The thing that, like a recent approach that I saw was to instruct, when we are building some kind of assistance, we can instruct the assistant model to warn about major things. So together with the code, it outputs you like, hey, you are trying to, make a decision rule that you, judging by the context of your project, would apply in healthcare. Please be aware that there are certain limitations. Here is where to read about them. That's one approach, tooling. It works for most cases. It's like better than nothing, much better than nothing. But then, yes, you're a poor little developer. You spent like how many 10 years of your life training to be a poor little developer. You learned a lot. You're you're going to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, you see, this isn't really my problem. Do you know the original formulation of the Murphy's Law?
If there is a probability, if there are two equal probabilities of outcomes, the outcome that will take place is the one that has the worst consequences, kind of that.
Well, this is the derivative because Edward Murphy was actually the aviation mechanic, and originally he said, if an airplane part can be installed incorrectly, it will be. And actually, it was formulated after a crash due to accelerometer installed
Vice versa.
vice versa. Well, simply because it was symmetric, right? So one poor mechanic plugged it in, screwed it in. Okay, fantastic.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. You know what I'm scared about in all these developments, that technology accelerates at the rate which actually requires a lot of intelligence to catch up. And at some point, people will start just copy pasting.
They have already started like 10 years ago.
Well, the whole development is about copy pasting from Stack Overflow, and it takes approximately 7 years to begin pasting from the answer and not from the question. But then, if we're now thinking about this example that we have models which develop, which take a lot of intelligence to understand, and people will somehow blindly copy paste it from one context into another with disastrous consequences. So there are vaccines, but there are vaccines for example, for cattle. It's quite important, but you know, cattle, human oil, who cares? Copy paste, ship it into production, and see what happens. I totally see it happening.
That's kind of an unusual direction to the talk, but I met an opinion that I share in regard to this. It's not about we will be making more mistakes. It's about to be recognized as a junior developer. You will have to learn much more. Like the level from which people will be able to push something in production will get higher. It's already getting higher due to the cheaper education and more people getting access to this education. But it will be even higher because like the execution became simple. Therefore, you can learn something else using this free space in your head.
Okay, interesting.
I want to see that happening though.
Yeah, it will be an interesting world.
Yeah. So, what would be your prediction? How would it look like? How would a role of developer look like?
The role of developer.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to remind here that all opinions are my own and not of my company.
Yeah. Yeah.
For developer, it will be just as hard as now. Maybe a little bit harder, as you might remember. I don't know, 2016 or something like that.
Yeah.
Because yes, you will. I think you will be tempted, and you will agree to outsource all the simple operations to LLMs because there is no sense in not doing that. And all the extra capacity that will be freed up in your head will be filled with more difficult problems. Most likely, that's a wild guess. Most likely, those difficult problems will be connected to people. Meaning, like, if you spend less time writing the code, you can either write more code, or you can talk to the stakeholder and understand which code do they actually need. I don't know. I think that we will go in the second direction, but I'm not sure.
Right. Can we explore another dimension? So we have developers, and we have.
Actually, we have the question.
Oh, we have a question.
From you. No.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah.
I work at BNN Vara, which is a company which makes TV and radio. and now they want to make an AI for radio.
Like
But
automatically generating the broadcast.
Yeah,
Yay!
but I don't understand why it's sensible to do that, and what kind of data is good for that to do that.
There are several questions in one. So first, does it make sense to do that? Second, how would you do that? And third, which data is required for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense to do that? It's a question to the product manager. My personal experience says that yes, but yes, it totally makes sense, but I'm not a product manager whatsoever. Second question is how to do that. If you don't have access to OpenAI specialists or specialists of the similar level, it's better to reuse foundational models that we talked a bit about. But yeah, the general idea, hey, you have a text model that can generate the text. You have text to speech, so actually you have your DJs automated and tuned to the preference of your speakers, of your listeners. And for the music, well, there was like yesterday a release of pretty good music generator. There are still problems there, meaning like you still need to have a human to verify all the stuff because it cannot generate long enough sequences that are nice to humans, but well, it's doable. And for the data, well, all the music and all the text that you already have. But yeah, here usually you either rely on foundations or you hire very expensive people who can train big and complex models and make sure they don't mess up with the data.
Okay.
Welcome.
Which, feel free to stay. Which builds an interesting bridge. So how exactly does it look? I come from the old days, so because I remember the life before Google. I even remember the life before.
Really old days.
Yes, really old days. I remember the life before internet.
Really?
Yes.
You're not that
That
old.
I am. 21. That's the number I like.
That's my second life. I can remember the previous one.
But I can say with seriously, life without internet was possible at some time. We cannot go back. So obviously, I've been doing this IT for 25 years, and I have seen 3 or 4 times that we invent tech and throw it away. And right now we're at this AI hype, and everybody tries to do it for good or for bad reasons. And my feeling is that nobody doesn't really know how to do it. So everybody reads Trade Express.
Yeah.
Then probably they go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, can you tell me how should I use you? And then kind of you get something. Stacy, maybe you can walk us through a kind of how does a project actually look like for, let's say, well, in the field. So what people do? Do we gather data? Do we write documents? Do we talk to people? Do we do everything at the same time? So
like how
Yeah.
does the work, like roughly,
Yeah.
what is the work day of a data scientist?
yeah, for example, if let's take Marline's example. So they want to automate DJs. Or okay, so how would this project be approached?
Well, from a personal point of view, first I would really question why would you need it and in which exact application would you need it, of course.
Yeah.
Usually you derive from this question, you necessarily ask this question, then you derive a set of limitations. Based on the answers, those limitations become really obvious. Like, for example, we don't actually need to automate all the DJs. We just need some fillers for nighttime, because nighttime DJs cost a lot and they're usually not that good. I'm making up. I'm not listening radio, especially I'm not listening Dutch radio because the only thing that I can understand there is weather forecast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably some politics names. That's an achievement, by the way. So yeah, for example, we want to replace our DJs that work in the night because they do not produce a lot of engagement. People don't listen specifically to them, and still we have to pay them money, and we want to pay them extra money because they work at night, and there is a trade union. Understandable. Ethical, questionable, but suppose you are the data scientist who agreed to do that. Then you understand that actually you don't need that much of I don't know, good humor, which is the thing that LMs don't shine at, let's say. You maybe just need very short pauses that should be filled in by human voice, and maybe most likely in these theoretical projects it would be enough just to voice over the weather forecast and the recent news, and then you don't need the AI at all. You just need, hey GPT-4, please rewrite this list of recent news into a short speech for 3 minutes. Hey, text-to-speech, please voice over this. Perfect. Sometimes it might be just enough. But then yes, if you agree to that implementation with the stakeholders, we just go and do that using the readily made foundation models and APIs. Then you will have some problems with implementation. Then you will have some problems with licensing. Then with the implementation again, because the only way to evade licensing problems is to change the implementation. Then you'll understand that, I don't know, maybe the machine on which all this stuff is going to be working is not good enough because the radio studio equipment is bought in 1984 and never updated. But yes, the implementation stages are, I'd say, for this particular project are kind of similar to the usual development. Well, you have some documentation, the documentation might be scattered, you have a very brief idea how it should work, and then you just compile it, like the usual developers work. All the achievements were done at the stage where you discussed with the stakeholder what actually do you need. If you didn't sell your stakeholder the idea about weather forecast voiceover, then you have a bit more trouble. Yeah. But most of the time, there are cheap solutions that would fill in all the necessary gaps.
So Marilyn, what's your budget?
I don't. The NPO gets the budget, so it's from the government.
Yeah, we have government.
Government. That's the foundation model, you know. Well, I'm joking because government doesn't have this much money, but still.
Well, the tech is from my taxes.
We already made, like, for CASA, which is a Dutch program on sort of AI for, like, a community where people can engage with each other and ask questions.
Wow.
So
how about migration?
So the government gives like 2 million, I believe, for development of AI in the Netherlands for like different companies, and every year we apply for at least 1 million of the 2 million.
Well, we urgently need to do it.
I'm actually surprised because for me, I just divided by the number of data science salaries and it's like
Nothing.
10 people employed for a year.
Good data scientists.
So how many data scientists do you need?
Average.
Yeah.
So how many do you need? Because then it's a big group.
Not really. Depends again on what do you want to do. If you want to do weather forecast voiceovers, then probably 2 people plus 3 developers plus QA plus support plus whoever is there to make the nice team is enough.
And you mentioned base model. What is it, or is it a person?
Base model, no, I meant foundational models.
Oh
which
yeah, foundation model.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which are the big models with a huge number of parameters that are usually developed by, well, that's not a part of definition, but they're usually developed by companies who have a lot of money and resources. And the general idea of a foundational model is that it is highly over-parameterized models which was fed a whole lot of data.
Mhm.
I'm mixing Dutch and English in my head, sorry.
Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah. Yeah.
No!
Yeah.
You know, I think everybody was there, but it's
Yeah.
still a challenge. So yes, when we have this huge model that has this huge number of parameters and we properly feed it the data, it turns out that new unexpected properties will emerge just from the fact that there are a lot of parameters. It is hard and pricey to train those models, so not only in terms of money but also in terms of access to data. It's how, like, LLMs were fed nearly the whole internet. Do you have access to the whole internet of data? Kinda yes, but actually no.
Mhm.
And the same goes for audio, for video. If you've seen the Sora, they are also made like a recently released very lifelike video generation model. They are were also trained using the same approach. Hell lot of parameters and hell lot of data.
Right. And after all this effort, does it actually help?
course.
Let me rephrase it. So I have also played with, out of interest, with ChatGPT, and was asking it questions. Well, how do you do certain things within the project? My conclusion is a bit disappointing. It is a little bit better than Google, but it has one annoying thing. If I have an edge case, I'm pretty much on my own.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's one of the pretty radical opinions on big models is that they are regression to the mean, driving to the highest degree possible.
And what does that mean?
Regression to the mean means that if you observe the event a lot of times, well, one of the definitions I'm now trying to citate Dr. Kahneman, if you observe an event a lot of times, then the most of the observations will be closer to the average, which is kind of the definition of the average, so I don't really understand the surprise here, but still. So when we fed a lot of data to this big model, it averaged it. That's one of the basic operations during the model training cycle. So what's the surprise if it presents you the average solution? I should also highlight that when we are speaking, if we are talking about chat models, if we are speaking to the model, it presents you not the best solution but the average solution, the solution that was the most often cited when this question is brought up. If you adjust your position, you might get a better solution because it's similar to adding filters to the table. The more filters you get, the more specific answer you get, and the same is here.
Yeah, you know, I'm totally not surprised. You know,
But sorry, would an edge case be appropriate for a general model? Because there are on ChatGPT, you can also, now that they opened your shop, you can also put specific training models for specific sectors. So maybe that would be more appropriate for you than rather going to the.
Brilliant question. You see, life tells one interesting thing, and I will draw the parallel with training courses that you can buy off the internet. They are made to address a wide audience, which means that they don't address anybody in particular. And this is what I think what you mean by regression to the mean. So
Yep.
you have a solution which sort of speaks to most of it, but not to your case.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have this last mile problem where you are on your own
Yeah.
to implement it.
And
Yeah.
moreover, edge cases,
Yeah.
every edge case is unique. Meaning, like, if we collect all the edges, there might be a lot of it, but every single edge is by definition like unique and different from all the others. Therefore, it's nearly impossible to like train the model to give you a solution to the case that it have not yet seen. So, speaking to your idea, yes, of course, it's possible to feed it, I don't know, documents if we are talking about the law. Yes, of course, we can show the law corpus of some particular domain area and ask questions to this law corpus. That's actually very useful stuff. I like it. I sometimes build similar features. They are amazing, very convenient. But if we meet a new case that is not covered, we are again on our own with this new case. And I think that's actually what currently is a sign of a good professional, like that you can handle a new case that you haven't yet seen, and that would remain sign of a good professional, that you can handle things that you haven't yet met.
Okay, so if I would imagine a situation in the brownfield, so you walk into a project which has been running for quite some time. Probably they have a few waves of data scientists who try to do something, and then suddenly they have a lake or data lake, or maybe 2 or 3 of data, and the whole thing just doesn't work in the data owner's language. Let's put it this way. So what would you do when you're confronted with this very frequent situation?
I can give you an example.
Andreas, yeah, you want to come in? Yeah.
I don't want to mention anybody as well.
Yeah.
My opinions are my own.
Yes, all opinions are.
We have a lawyer, so I need to be careful now.
So indeed, so I'm just a mortal developer and I need to deal with gathering data. So that's also why I asked before, how do I gather the right data for you? So my problem is that I need to implement something for a customer facing application, but then all I hear is like, yes, we have a data lake. And then when I need to get the data, it's from like 11 different places. And then I need to do all the aggregation of the data. So who is messing this up and how can I help to fix it?
Well, the obvious answer is it depends. The second thing that I would have done if I was in your position, I would have asked people who say we have a data lake, like what do they mean by that, and why are they mentioning it at all? Because come on, you have the task to do this particular feature. You can sort out yourself what the data is there that you need. Third, yes, if the data lake is nice and good but nobody can use it, maybe it's not so useful. Like if nobody can use it, then why do you keep it? Because nobody can use it. If you can use it but it slows everything down, then maybe it's the time to rewrite the system. Speaking about the things that are theoretically working but they are really slow to develop, meaning like supporting them, adding new features is very slow. I saw the case where such a system was like, okay, here it is, it exists just for the time that we need to develop a completely new one from scratch. So once the new system is capable of handling basic things, we just drop, delete the old one. That's also the case.
Sounds like a very expensive solution though. I don't think I can solve this to my project manager.
Okay, let's flip the question around. What shall we say to sell this to the
Yes.
product owner?
What should you sell? What should you say to sell?
So yeah.
Because you're basically saying to build a new system from scratch, right? Like throw away like you did with data, just throw it away and then let's build something new.
Two things, several things. How much does it cost to maintain this system? How much does it cost to develop this system in terms of time and money? And how much would it cost to build a new one? If what you're saying is correct, then most likely building the new one will be cheaper.
I can tell you, they're gonna tell me we are data driven, we cannot throw the data away because then we're not data driven anymore.
Are you making decisions out of this data? If you are not making decisions out of this plenty of data that you have collected, then you are not data driven and then this data is not useful. Again, I remember a very nice example. If you are patient enough, you can find it in my company's blog. Somewhere in 2016, there was a major redesign of the toolbar, if you remember.
Let us.
We found somebody, the person responsible for it.
I don't remember blog post, but the design of toolbar, you're talking about IntelliJ.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna
They gathered data for it specifically. They gathered this data and it was absolutely lovely. It helped people to make the decision and they highlighted this decision in the blog post. But when people tried to reuse this data for something else, it proved useless. Like, there is nothing else we can do with that. There is nothing we can, there are no questions that we can answer with this data. So the data was deleted because it's
useless anymore.
yeah, it's useless. If this data is actually useful, if there are actually some decisions that are made on it, then maybe you can ask people who can successfully make decisions on this data.
And who makes this decision, if data is useful or not? Because I feel like in big organizations, like I said, you have a data lake and the data lake basically just becomes a dumpster. You just dump everything there and then someone is going to make sense out of it. But nobody's checking, like, are we actually doing something useful with this stuff that we're dumping here?
Yeah, because storage is cheap.
I think you said that before, right?
Yeah, storage is cheap. You
Yeah.
can store whatever you want. The question is, yes, will somebody be able to make use of it?
Because it can also contaminate at some point, right? Like if you keep stuff longer than it's useful, then at some point it's just polluting the results that you're getting.
Yeah. Actually, no, because if you have good data specialists, they will filter out all this old and just useless stuff. I'm trying to keep myself within the proper lexics.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's getting later and I'm
no worries.
slowing down. Yeah. If there is absolutely no way to find out who is using this data lake, then well,
It's air conditioning.
Yeah.
No worries, yeah.
okay. Then again, like, if you are absolutely sure, if there is no way to trace people who are using it, then maybe you should first ask, and then again check which decisions were made. The list of decisions is usually very obvious, like, oh sweetie, we decided to remove those toolbar buttons and put instead those toolbar buttons. We decided to show the sign up button here and not there. We decided to hide the sign up button because nobody uses it. Why not?
Is there a figure like a data owner? What would you call it? Like a data CEO? Like
Data CEO?
Well, if you want to introduce one more position in your
Chief
company,
Data Officer.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean. Like,
Well, you can be one.
I'm gonna be the data CEO,
Well,
why not?
yeah, why not? Yeah.
the data lake CEO. No, but what I mean is like when you have such a big organization and everybody's just dumping things, like nobody's asking this question because everybody's focusing on their own domain, right? So someone needs to be kind of like the guardian of this data lake or data lakes in plural to make sure that whatever is actually being stored there, it still makes sense or not. But I don't think nobody's doing this. This is not a role that we have, do we?
It is an option, and I've seen organizations where this guardian is in place and is responsible for like everything that's getting dropped into this data lake. But even if not, like I don't understand what's the problem actually, because okay, there is some data that is hard to use. Don't use it.
But as far as I understand, this is part of the process.
Come on. Yeah. Guys, we've been talking for 57 minutes, 3 more minutes, and we need to call it a wrap. It's getting late.
Oh, sorry.
Alright, so I'll try to be short. As far as I understand, this is part of the process. Data lake usually is a cold storage where all the data is stored, which is collected. Then there are data scientists who are fishing this data lake and creating data warehouses.
And face palming
Yeah.
most
So
of the time.
it doesn't matter. Actually, they're trying to get some useful information, and they put it in a group, in different groups. They try to categorize that, and then this data in the data warehouses is used for creating new model, for teaching them, and so on. So, in your case, which you mentioned about the toolbar, as far as I understand, the data was processed fully, and it's clear that nothing could be got out of that.
Not exactly. We continued collecting the data, hoping that it would be helpful for one of our next projects. But when those new ideas came into our focus, the person who was asked to do that looked and said, well, this stuff that you're collecting here is not of any help. I cannot do anything with it, and most likely for any questions that we can see right now, it will be useless. So
Yeah. And this is an iterational process. So
Yeah, of
data
course.
scientists could join the any project at any time. It means, okay, they look at the statistics data which is already collected. They try to get as much information as possible, and then to answer some questions from the business, they can tell, okay, we are missing this data, this data, this data. So this group should split it into subgroups in order to specify the answer to a certain question,
Yeah,
and
that's
so on.
totally
So
an iterative
this is an iterative process,
and you usually, well, it depends on the structure. I remember the company where people said like, yes, our data analysts write collectors, meaning like they write pieces of production code that sends or statistics back to the service. It was all right for them. I've seen also another place where people were like, tell the programmers what do they need to log, and they will log it for you. That's also the case. But the point is, you cannot do data collection right from the beginning.
Yeah, that's correct.
You will always edit it, you will always revise it, and the best thing you can do is introduce some versioning scheme that would allow you to filter out the old data. And one more point that I wanted to touch in here is, most of the time you don't need like a data that is year old. Like most of the time it's not useful to you in for any of your questions. Most of the time you use like the last 2 or 3 months, especially if you're working for a big company, not for the company where there are like 3 clients. But for 3 clients, honestly, it's better to ask them what do they want.
Cheaper.
Yeah, cheaper and simpler, and well, have better definition, better precision. So yes, most likely you don't need to keep the old data just because the real old data, because like you can, it won't help anybody. It won't help any decision. So well, just dump it.
That's a good point to wrap up. Oh, sorry.
Do you think it makes sense to involve into the process during the, involve you like scientist during the when we creating the program the first time
Absolutely.
in some process, yeah?
Well,
Because now we're talking about we have a
Existing
program we call
project,
it yes
yeah.
existing, and when we creating in which when and what we ask you.
well, again, it depends on which kind of product you are creating. If we are creating something that doesn't use machine learning as a feature, then the best you can do is to log everything. And for logging everything, just, I don't know, use Google Analytics and don't think too much. Then you don't need a data scientist at the first stage of your product. If for some reason you need your custom analytics, like you don't want to pay Google, understandable, or you are not willing to pay them that much, then yes, consult analytics when you are building your product, and their answer will be log everything that is possible to log. Like every single click, please log, that would be fine. Add timestamp, just in case you forgot.
And the user ID.
Yep. Yeah, add timestamp, user ID, and log every single thing. Please try not to log users' name, surname, and email.
Passwords.
Yeah, passwords also
You
would be
cannot.
nice to.
You cannot.
You'd better not.
You could do it also, yeah.
I'll put in the data lake.
Yeah.
Whether you will be penalized yeah, for that.
Yeah.
It's recorded stream.
Totally. So yes, totally, you can engage with data scientists from the start, but at the very beginning they will say you just log everything.
Okay.
Right.
I saved you like how many? 5,000 euros.
May I ask the last question?
Yes, yes.
And there is one more last question over there.
Yeah, it's a follow-up question.
Okay.
We have discussed what is good data, bad data. Where do you draw the line of how much data is actually good data or sufficient? Because growing up, when I started working, I've realized that value proposition of information over time depletes. Like the value of the data, if you're not making a functional or business value out of it, or if it reaches you in next 1 minute, it's great. But if you're making something out of it in 1 month, then maybe the value proposition is gone down. So you mentioned rightly now to get rid of the old data, but I've seen large language models especially continue using old data as well as new data to for the precision sake. But where do they usually draw the line? No data scientists. So I don't
Usually
know.
I don't draw the line because as long as this data source serves as good purpose, there is no need to delete it. Sometimes there are like legal requirements, please delete all the user related data that is 5 years old or older, then you will have to implement this. Sometimes you understand that, well, I need to do this particular adjustment to my data collection process, and I cannot do it within the same database structure that I have right now. At this point, all the new data is collected using different structure, and this one, well, usually you just announce it will be deleted in half a year. And it becomes deleted in half a year. You can theoretically ask your stakeholders, like in this case, product managers and maybe data analysts, maybe, for how long would they need this data source anymore, but usually it's something like that. The last one.
Yeah, the last question from me. So does it mean that the number of data parameters will increase all the time? As soon as data scientist has joined the project, it will look at the data, it will try to get as much as possible and to answer the additional questions from the project manager. More data is required. It means
Not always.
anyway the data will be growing.
think it is comparable to the test coverage. When you are just introducing tests to a project, if it just happened that you have a project without tests, at the beginning the number of tests increases rapidly.
Yeah.
Once you more or less covered your project with the tests, the number of tests still increases as long as you add new features to your project. The same is with data. First, yes, you will need more and more data for every single research, because every single research will begin with, yes, we do not collect anything regarding this, can you please collect something for us? And then once you more or less cover your product with analytics, with logging, you will need to add new collector add new statistics as long as new features are coming. Sometimes, yes, you will have to redo everything, but not really often, and the speed of growth will stabilize.
Yeah, what I try to underline is that the more answers people get to their questions, the more questions they have, and the more
That's
answers
true.
they need.
That's
So,
true.
Which requires more data.
No. The point is, once people understand that they get useful answers to their question, they begin asking more questions. That's totally true. Then usually you hire more data scientists to answer all those absolutely necessary questions. But the point is that, if you have a to-do list, you can ask an infinite number of questions to the behavior of people in to-do list, but they can only click, 5 buttons, because there are no more than 5 buttons in the to-do list.
Yeah, it's true.
So you physically cannot add more logging than that. Well, of course you can check the mouse button, but anyway, it's just another type of event.
Guys,
Okay.
there are
Thank you.
24 hours in a day, and some we need to make a cut. What I propose to do is to close this conversation with a very simple poll. Who would want to see Stacy again here to continue this conversation? Can you please raise your hands?
Okay, now
Now-
I'm a bit frightened.
So, Stacy, on this note, I want to really thank you for your time. It was extremely enlightening talk, and we are absolutely not finished. So,
Okay.
yeah. So there will be version 2, and we need to agree on the continuation of this. Guys, let's give Stacy a round of applause. She would very much.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that much interest. I did expect quite an interesting talk, but I didn't expect that heated discussion. Thank you. And also, I didn't expect myself to survive it, but I'm still here.
All right. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. On this exciting note, we have to break up the studio and go home. Yeah, guys. Yeah.